Burger, Ben Saunders.
Yeah.
A couple of the old twos going at it.
I mean, if I didn't have that spot in San Francisco, I'd be cornering Ben.
You're doing a lot of stand-up, man. That's
not
crazy.
Not a lot.
Enough. Like, I see your
It's
name
not
out there.
not like a real comedian. Real comedians go out all the time. I'm like below an open micer. You know what I mean?
Are you enjoying it?
I love it. I love it. The show we did Friday night in the Bell Room, that was the most fun I've ever had, man. That was so much fun.
It's so crazy seeing you do it stand-up.
It was so much fun.
Is it all just conspiracy theory stand-up? Because I know you guys are calling it tinfoil hat conspiracy night. Is that just because of the podcast name?
It's more designed to. It's not a There's a lot of conspiracy theory comedy in there, but it's not like 100%.
Right.
But
you guys you take fan questions too, right? So you can go hard in the paint.
Yeah. At the end, we do a question and answer type of like a mini podcast thing. Yeah, it's fun. Friday night at the Belly Room was so much fun, man. It was
Belly
awesome.
Room is such an amazing room. That's the truth serum room. Because if your jokes are like fat, if they have too much extra words in them, if they're too fake, if they come off corny, that room just highlights it.
You can feel it.
I always like to run my material in that room before I do anything big.
Joey did his show at the. I've never been in that room in the Ice House. The one, not the big room. They did in the small. It's almost like the Belly Room.
Yeah,
the Ice House to
that
the
room
side.
That's where he did it.
Yeah,
that room's amazing.
Yeah,
that's what we
I've
did
done that
last
a couple
night.
times with Joey too. That's a great one.
That's a great room.
When I opened for Joey, I love it because it's probably 90% Latin. And I love telling Mexican jokes. I got so many Mexican stories. It's just all fun. There's no conspiracy theories going on with those crowds. It's
His crowd's like 90% Latin, really? Joey's?
Not last night, was it?
No, it seemed like it was when,
That's interesting.
like in Ontario.
Oh, well, Ontario's 90% Latin.
Yeah.
You're dealing
That
with
was a lot of
Ontario.
fun.
Ontario's a great room.
Ontario, Levity, and
great-
Oxnard. A lot of Latin.
Yeah. Ontario's
I
a
did
great
Bert
fucking
Kreischer's
spot.
podcast last week, and he said that because of he said that he was telling you that Russian mafia story, and then you said you should do it on stage, and then he did it, and it blew up, that Russian mob story. And then I remembered, I go, you know what? Joe told me to do that bleeding asshole story on stage. I had a problem with blood coming out of my ass, so I told him how I fixed it. And he goes, dude, you got to do that on stage. And I'm like, no way. My first reaction was like, fuck, no, I'm not going to talk about that on stage. But I did it Friday, and it went over well.
Dude, it's a funny story, man. When you told it, I was howling laughing. It's funny how, like, you say that, like, oh, you should do that bleeding asshole story, and people who are listening, like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys?
Come on, man.
But it's not just a matter of, like, how you were telling me the story, and when you were telling me the story, I was cracking up. I mean, I am not a comedy snob by any stretch of the imagination. I like comedy. I like things that are funny. And if it happens to be funny for X, Y, or Z reason, I don't care. I like to laugh. I like funny shit. I don't believe that like there's certain subjects that should be off limits. It's just a matter of how you approach the subject. If it's a part of life, the problem is a lot of subjects are tainted because a lot of people do bad comedy that's like cheap and easy, and they use those subjects instead of because the subjects are interesting and they have like a real valid point. They use those subjects because they know it's going to get a cheap laugh, like
there's
a
no original
cheap,
thought with
cheap fart joke
Yeah.
or a cheap, whatever kind of joke. There's a bunch of cheap jokes, but then there's like a real live situation when you have to shit your pants. Like Ari Shaffir had a fucking hilarious joke about there was a bridge across in Sydney. This crazy bridge. It's like 2 miles long or something. Like you walk across it, and he was halfway across the bridge, and he had to shit his pants. and he told this story, and he had an agent at the time. Told him, "That's a shit joke. You got to stop doing that joke." And Ari looked at him. He goes, "Yeah, we're not going to work together anymore." He just got rid of him. Just got rid of his agent. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Because he told me about it. I go, what? I go, that guy told you to stop doing that bit? Because it was a real story. I was with him. We were together in Sydney.
That's what makes it funnier.
But it was a real story where he had to shit his pants, and he was a mile into it, and it was killing. And his stupid ass agent was like, that's a shit joke. Shouldn't do a shit joke. Because he doesn't get it. Because he hears when people are talking about just like
why would you
cheap.
listen to Asian on
Agent,
your
not
material?
an Asian.
No,
Agent.
I know agent.
You said Asian?
Did I?
Yes.
It's early. Why would he listen
he
to
didn't.
Agent or Asian?
He didn't, but there's two stages of your career, right? There's a stage where other people are trying to tell you what to do. They're like, what you need to do is wear a tie. What you need to do is change your act. What you need to do is go clean. I went through all that shit too. And then there's a stage where they just leave you the fuck alone. Ari is now in that leave you the fuck
That's
alone
he's
stage.
successful.
Because he's successful.
When you're successful, you can say what you want to do.
But a few years back, he was in that you might make it, you might fall apart stage in an agent's eyes. Like, agents look at you and they go, man, I don't know, Eddie, you might be able to make it, but you're going to have to change some things. You change the way you dress, change your hair.
Drop the bleeding asshole story.
The bleeding asshole thing is alienating fans. You know, and they get it in their head that they know how to fix your act. They're almost always wrong. They're almost always wrong.